also are making it available via the internet through WebEx. Participants can join us by phone or by computer during the meeting. There will be opportunities for public comment for those attending in person or online. When the president opens the public comment period, those attending in person may step forward to one of the two podiums and be recognized. If you're joining us by phone and wish to comment, please press star 3, which will raise your electronic hand. Our operator will identify you and bring you into the meeting. Pressing star 6 will mute and unmute your line. If you're online, you will see a hand and microphone icon at the bottom of your screen. Please use those at the appropriate times. We ask guests to begin public comments by stating your name and address for the record. The county attorney will administer an oath or affirmation to anyone giving testimony at a public hearing. We ask that public comments relate to the subject announced by the president. In addition to public hearings, there are 2 public comment periods, one at the beginning of the meeting for agenda items and one near the end of the meeting for general comments. This meeting is being recorded and will follow the rules of procedure adopted by the Levy Court as well as the Mason's Rules of Order. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We now call the meeting to order. I'll ask Commissioner Angel to lead us in invocation. Commissioner Scott lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And a moment of silence for our troops and first responders. Commissioner Sweeney. All rise, please.
Heavenly Father, we ask for your guidance and wisdoms in tonight's meeting and safe passage home. In your name we pray. Amen.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our military, law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, and other first responders who have given their lives in the line of duty. Please remember these individual first responders who died in the line of duty, as well as keeping their families in your thoughts and prayers as they deal with the loss of their loved ones. Trooper Enrique Delgado Garcia from the Massachusetts State Police, Motor Carrier Officer Daniel Kerstetter from the Michigan State Police, Deputy Sheriff Josh Phipps from the Russell County Sheriff's Office in Kentucky, Police Officer David Lee from the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department in Missouri, K-9 Mika from the Lee County Sheriff's Office in South Carolina, K-9 Riddick from the Nampa Police Department in Idaho, Captain Thomas Patterson from the Lewisburg Fire Department in North Carolina, and firefighter paramedic Kyle Brinker from the Kansas City Fire Department in Missouri. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Ms. Tanaka, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Present.
Mr. Hall?
Present.
Mr. Hertz?
Here.
Mrs. Maston?
Present.
Mr. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Sweeney?
Here.
Mr. Pepper?
Here.
Mr. President, roll call, reveal 7 present.
Thank you. Roll call reveals all 7 commissioners are present. Need a motion on the adoption of the agenda after we add under new business, Mrs. Maston, we need to add item number 2, FFA, Caesar Rodney, FFA contribution.
Second.
Need a motion first.
Motion.
Second.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Angel to approve this evening's agenda with the addition, and second by Commissioner Sweeney. Is there any questions on the motion? If not, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Hertz?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call, reveal 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals this evening's amended agenda has been adopted. This is the time in the meeting where if you'd like to make a comment about something that's on the agenda that is not covered under a public hearing, now's the time for you to please come forward.
If there's any guests joining us online that would like to make public comments at this time, please indicate by raising your electronic hand or pressing star 3 if you're joining us by phone. I see no hands raised for public comment online, Mr. President.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is Employee of the Month for October 2024, Samantha Faulkner. Is Samantha here this evening? She is here. Ms. Tanaka, can you read the information about Sam for the official record of Levy Court, please?
Kent County Department heads have selected Samantha Faulkner from the Department of Finance Tax Office as the October 2024 Employee of the Month. Sam is the tax clerk 2 in the tax office and started with Kent County in August 2020. She began her career with the county as a tax clerk 1, promoted to tax clerk 2 in August of 2022. Sam serves as a mentor and trainer to the new tax clerks, sharing her advanced knowledge of tax and sewer payment collections while also overseeing mobile homes and payment plans. She has done an excellent job of administering the munitions process and maintaining records for tax sales, while working in conjunction with the attorney, sheriff's office, inspections and enforcement, and the sewer department. According to Director of Finance Susan Durham, Sam is a great asset to the tax office. She is always upbeat and positive and willing to help wherever it is needed. She provides great customer service, and her research skills are excellent. Sam is always willing to take on new responsibilities. She enjoys learning and is setting her sights on continued growth within the county. Congratulations, Samantha, on a job well done. And she resides in Commissioner Angel and Pepper's districts. And the tribute reads, Kent County Levy Court, October 2024 Employee of the Month, Samantha A. Faulkner. On this, the 24th day of September 2024, the Levy Court of Kent County, State of Delaware, does hereby recognize Samantha A. Faulkner, Tax Clerk 2, Department of Finance, Tax Office, for her exceptional initiative, dedication, and conscientiousness in the delivery of services to the citizenry of the county.
Thank you, Ms. Tanaka. And that Employee of the Month tribute is signed by all 7 Levy Court Commissioners. And Samantha, if you want to come on down front, we'd like to present this to you. Ms. Durham, you come down too. And Commissioners, go down front. Congratulations. That's you giggling in the back.
And you thought the tax page was hard.
Samantha, come on down here. Front and center. No. Well, Samantha, you haven't been here that long, but you've already become Employee of the Month. So somebody must be watching what you're doing. So we certainly do appreciate all the hard work you do for the county and make us commissioners look good. And you're certainly an asset in the finance department, and we're here to recognize you tonight for those great things that you do. So let me pass this.
I bet you never thought you would be in the position that you're in with the tax season that's upon us. And if it goes well, we might see you here next year. Congratulations. We appreciate everything that you guys do, you and Susan and the whole team. So congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations for a job well done. And yeah, we appreciate all you can do. And I'm sure you've had busy seasons so far.
Yeah, this is probably one of the busiest times in a long time. So appreciate everything you do and what you do for the county.
Yeah, I just can't say enough about how hard the work is in the tax cage in terms of dealing with people who are so unhappy. And I'm sure people don't, when they're little, think, when I grow up, I want to collect taxes all day. But really appreciate how you always have a smile and you're always welcoming to people and have done a great job for us.
Yes, thank you for all your hard work. And, well, all I can say is you have a heck of a job and you have a heck of a boss that really put you in for this. And when she puts something in, she puts her whole heart into it. So you can thank her too.
Samantha, 2 years of promotion and now Employee of the Month. Congratulations. Kudos for everything that you go through every day to keep the county going and keep the money coming in. It is really appreciated. We need lots and lots of people like you. Thank you.
Samantha, good job. And, you know, I think I've already heard it said tonight by a couple of them, to get beat up all day and still to be able to stand here with a smile, it speaks volumes. So thank you for all your positive energy and your hard work and dedication.
And many, many thanks, Sam. We've been through a lot already and a lot more to come. So that's the good and the bad news, but it's probably one of the most thankless jobs in the county, especially during this time of year, as far as in the cage, because that's the firing line. People walk up there and it's not your fault and there's nothing you can do about it, but people come at you 100 miles an hour. And this year has just been, the words can't describe it. So, so it is greatly appreciated. The whole team has done a great job and been through a lot, and thanks for helping lead that charge.
I know you have something to say. Are you sure?
Thank you.
All right, all right.
Good work. That's it, right?
That's it.
Okay, do we have any new employee introductions this evening? No? None? Okay, great, thank you. Okay, we've reached the point in the meeting for public hearings. The first public hearing is petitions for conditional use approval. It falls under Commissioner Hertz, application number C24-05, State Fair Community Energy Initiative, LLC. And Ms. Kiefer's at the podium, ready to lead us into this. And then when it's over, we'll ask Commissioner Hertz for a motion.
Well, I'll turn it right over to Sarah.
Good evening, Commissioners. First, just a word about how the hearings tonight will be conducted. This public hearing is conducted for the purpose of giving the citizens of the county the opportunity to present testimony on the applications before the levy court. Everyone will have a chance to speak. All statements will be made from the podium at the front of the room. For the record, please give your name and address. Copies of any written statements or exhibits used during the hearing should be presented for identification and inclusion in the record. For each application before the levy court, the president will introduce the application. The levy court will then receive testimony from all of those in favor. Testimony will then be received from those who may be opposed. After everyone has had an opportunity to speak, the hearing on the application will be closed, and the levy court will take what action it deems appropriate. Levy court's decision will be based upon public hearing testimony given at this meeting and a recommendation submitted to the levy court by the Regional Planning Commission. I would ask that that recommendation be included by reference in the permanent record of this meeting established by the clerk of the peace. The public notice of this hearing was published in the September 4th, 2024 edition of the Delaware State News. The first application before the Levy Court, C-2405, is a conditional use for a community energy generating facility. The project area is just over 19 acres on the east side of Farmington Road, north of Quiet Acres Lane, south of Harrington. The Regional Planning Commission took testimony at their September 5th hearing, and at their September 12th business meeting, voted unanimously to recommend conditional approval, citing that the application meets all of the required conditions of approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any commissioners have any questions? Don't see none. Is anybody in the audience here in favor?
Well, at this time, we'll ask anyone in the audience maybe in favor of this project, please come forward and offer testimony.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Mike Ryman with Becker Morgan Group, address 309 South Governors Avenue, Dover, Delaware.
Mr. Ryman, do you swear or affirm, sir, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Proceed.
I just want to make sure you have, it's the same presentation from Planning Commission. You should have it. While he's doing that, I can probably go ahead and get started. So the project, as was mentioned, is a community energy solar facility. The property is 32 acres in size. The array is 19 acres of that parcel. Now we've lost the whole screen. That is not a good sign. Oh, there we go. The property is zoned AR. It is located in the growth zone, adjacent to the railway, which divides or separates this property from the Harrington State Fairgrounds. As this project is a conditional use application, there are 4 criteria that we are required to meet. Those criteria include that the location is appropriate and not in conflict with the comprehensive plan. This property is located in the growth zone. It is zoned, and the zoning does allow for a community energy solar use, and it is adjacent to rail. That we also have to show that the public health and safety will not be adversely impacted. Solar farms produce a minimum amount of disturbance to develop. They provide a source of renewable energy. There will be soils testing performed in accordance with your code, and that this site will have limited impervious proposed with the development. We also have to demonstrate adequate off-street parking. In this particular case, this is not a use that generates traffic. As such, we do not expect parking on site. There might be once a month a vehicle for maintenance purposes, but that is it. In addition, we have to demonstrate that necessary safeguards to protecting surrounding property and persons, and we're getting there. That looks familiar. I didn't make it too far, so if you just go to the next slide. I was trying to slow play this. You can just scroll. It's a PDF, it looks like, so you can just scroll down. Can you scroll to the, there we go, that's where I was. So that necessary safeguards to protect the surrounding property and persons are in place. The project does meet all of the buffer requirements, setbacks that have been created with the new ordinance that was adopted by this body. In addition to that, there'll be all the proper soil testing, et cetera. Next slide. This just highlights, I know you've seen this before, but this highlights all of the various setbacks, buffers, decommissioning plans, bonding, et cetera, that's required, and this project is in conformance with all of those requirements. Next slide. This gives you an idea of the site. You can see the site outlined in yellow, Farmington Road to Page South, and you can see the Harrington Fairgrounds to Page North. And then you see the railroad that splits. The site is largely in agricultural use with some drainage ditches. Next slide. This shows you the location of the arrays themselves. The arrays are broken essentially into two pieces. There are two access points, one here and one here, and that is because there is a tax ditch that divides the property, and therefore there needs to be two separate access points to access the two separate arrays. You can see that the panels themselves are 19.02 acres of the 32-acre parcel. Next slide. Just kind of highlighting some things. The project or array will be fenced, as is typical and required. There are some tax ditches through the property. You can see those here, and all of the corresponding buffers and easements that are in place. And this project avoids those elements. There's also a landscape buffer, which is outlined in your code, and this project meets all of those requirements to screen the array from the street and neighboring properties. Next slide. This just highlights the buffer itself. What you see in the top corner here is a typical buffer, which is well defined in your code, and this meets those requirements. Next slide. The fence details, I know that you've seen this before, I've presented this numerous times, but essentially this fence involves using a woven wire mesh so that small animals can migrate through the facility. And then there's some larger openings for some of the larger animals so that any migration of animals can continue through the property. This is quite typical of these types of facilities. Next slide. There's been questions in the past regarding impacts on surrounding properties. There have been numerous studies that have been done that demonstrate that these facilities do not have a negative or detrimental impact on the value of surrounding properties. We've cited those here, and again, I know that this has been a slide that you have seen before. Next slide. The reason we are here this evening is, as required by your code, we have notified the neighbors in accordance with your procedures. There were 7 total notifications. We received 2, no objections, one of which was from the fair. And we only received 1 objection, which triggers this public hearing. And that 1 objection, coincidentally or ironically, however you want to say it, is actually from a neighboring solar entity, not from a resident. Next slide. As Sarah has already mentioned, we have reviewed the staff report. We have no objections to any of the items in the staff report. Staff did recommend approval, and then subsequently the Planning Commission also recommended approval. And then lastly, I'll point out that there is a letter in your packet from the Kent Economic Partnership objecting to the project because citing the adjacency to rail. We respectfully disagree with their assessment of that. The property is not zoned industrial, and nor does the comprehensive plan outline this parcel to be industrial. They are citing the adjacency to rail and the ability of the site to potentially be industrial as their reason for their objection, but we respectfully disagree that that is not in agreement with either your code, zoning, or comprehensive plan. In addition, the property itself is about 32 acres in size. And typically, I believe it's been testified in the past that for sites to really take advantage of rail, there needs to be about 100 acres in size for these properties to truly be effective and have an advantage to the rail use. So we do respectfully disagree with the Kent Economic Partnership's position and objection on this. We believe what we have proposed is in conformance with all code requirements, and we respectfully request your approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Ryman? Mr. Sweeney?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ryman, I'm reading the remediation on this project, and it's showing $215,000 total at the end of, I don't know, 35 years or so.
Right.
What happens if remediation comes at 20 years? They're still responsible for what they estimate is $215,000 to remediate, right?
It's a decommissioning. So they're responsible to decommission the project, right, and the bond is in place to ensure that it happens.
So in the document, it says that they are using Virginia code.
So I'm going to have Mr. Redding come up and maybe address that.
Does Delaware not have code for setting up decommission funds. You'll need to be sworn in.
Name and address, sir.
My name is Michael Redding. I'm with representing the applicant here tonight. My address is 20 Trafalgar Square in Nashua, New Hampshire.
Sir, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Proceed.
Yeah, so as far as the decommissioning plan, we're adhering to all of the state regulations regarding erosion control and the county requirements. With regards to the decommissioning bond, that would be in accordance with the county standards, and that value that we've determined is based upon evaluating many different projects from the Mid-Atlantic to other areas to generate what we feel is a fair and representative cost. That value will constantly be evaluated as we get closer to the actual construction. And then as we go to pull that bond and get our building permit, that will be refreshed based upon current cost and inflation rates. And then that bond will be issued. And every 5 years, we'll have to review that and then reissue that bond so that it meets the current standards regarding construction costs.
Okay, because I notice year after year, it consistently goes, decreases. I just want to make sure that the funds are going to be there to decommission at the end of the life of the panels, number one.
I would love to know what you're looking at, because we did not represent a decreasing value regarding our...
It is in your document under remediation funds. It starts off in year one with a $13,402 payment and ends in year 35 with a $3,564 payment for a total of $215,000 over 35 years.
So that's a representative project that we included for your reference only.
Okay.
So that chart there doesn't represent our project at all. It was simply just as a reference so that you could use that to see how I formulated a fair and reasonable cost. We will not be using that trend or that scale at all.
Gotcha.
For this project.
Okay.
Yep.
So then the reference to Virginia Code subsection 15.2, that Delaware doesn't have a code that has overriding authority over this?
Again, you're looking at the entire plan that was a reference plan.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was part of my submittal. So all of our references are to the Kent County Code and the requirements for the decommissioning bond.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. Sorry for the confusion on that.
Thank you. I appreciate
All right.
you clearing that up.
Any other questions? Mr. Hertz?
Well, I got more questions on this decommissioning. Who picks that number? Do you pick that number?
Yeah,
Or
so
do you have a third party do it?
So we work with the owner, we work with the contractor, we put estimates together, and then it's actually reviewed by the county staff prior to final plan approval. So before final plan approval, the county staff review all of those numbers. And maybe Sarah can speak to that if there are questions about that process they go through, but it does get submitted and reviewed by staff before final approval.
And you reevaluate every 5 years?
Every 5 years, yes, we're to update it.
So if it goes up 100,000 every 5 years, you rebond for that extra 100,000?
Correct.
Sarah, where are we at? We had 2 of these solar fields, I believe, last month, and the decommission on both of them were drastically different, even though they are both 40-acre lots. One was at 200,000 and the other one was at 700,000. And I brought this up, and I thought we discussed that we were going to start making these solar fields have a third party to come up with their decommission number instead of letting them make it.
We did discuss it. I apologize. Those changes have not been drafted yet, but we will work on them.
So these guys are still making up their own number, because, I mean, with that one coming in on a 40-acre lot last month at 700,000, these guys are coming in at 19 acres, so roughly they should be at 350, and they're only at 215. I mean, the numbers are all over the place, and to me, with this one company coming way in at $700-some thousand, where did they come up with such a high number? It's just making these other ones look bad that they're lowballing it. And if they lowball in 25 years from now, they can just walk away and say, kind of like these developers are walking away from these streets when they don't get the development done for 15, 20 years, and then when it's time to pave out the development, they don't have the money because they only bought it for $100,000. Now hot mix is $300,000. They say, walk away, take my bond, see ya.
Which is largely why the county is requiring these to be reviewed every 5 years. Because the markets change.
But they're still setting a number, and we're not requiring a third party, somebody that has no skin in the game. I mean, if I'm going to make my own number and I'm a businessman, I'm going to lowball that number, most certainly. And by that one company coming in here last month and coming in at 700-some thousand, and the other company coming in right next to them with the same amount of acreage coming in at 200,000, I mean, you can't get no more discrepancy than that.
There's nothing for me to say other than we can try to make a code change a priority.
No more questions.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
I mean, if it helps, I could have Mr. Redding walk through a little bit more detail as to how we come up with those numbers. And, you know, we are coming up with the estimates based on what we think those costs are. So when you say third party, we're sending them to the county. The county does have a shot at reviewing those numbers and providing their opinion, and we need their sign off before it goes to any kind of final. So this isn't really entirely up to us. It is reviewed by county staff as part of the process, and they do have a say in what those numbers are. I will say too, as it relates to the types of facilities, I'm not familiar with the one that's 700,000 or whatever. I don't think that's one I've been involved in. Not all the solar arrays are the same. There's different types of panels. There's tracking, non-tracking, fixed. And Mike Redding can speak to that more. That the post structures are different from project to project. So there are some differences. This one is 19, what was our array? 19 acres, not 40. So there are some differences, but at the end of the day, we're putting together what we think is accurate at the current market, submitting that to the county, having them review it. Obviously, if they think we need to make adjustments, and we've made adjustments based on county input on other projects. So we think we're doing it in a accurate way.
Well, I don't think it matters what kind of solar panel you put in there. The bottom line is, you're demoing it. You're demoing it. It's just like if you had a car, a Rolls Royce, a Chevrolet, you took them to a junkyard. Doesn't matter that the Rolls Royce ain't gonna cost you no more to demo than Chevrolet if you're crushing it. The bottom line is the solar panels doesn't matter. You're demoing solar panels, no matter what kind they are. You're demoing them and putting the property back to original state. So a demo price is a demo price. It doesn't matter what the panel is.
Yeah,
there's very little difference in the panel. This solar field's got 2 posts versus 1, maybe slightly different, something like that. But for the most part, it should be an even keel price per acre to demo and put back.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree with that. I think in many of the cases, I can have Mike explain it better, but the panels are deconstructed, and they're not just, meaning you're not just bringing a dozer in there and just knocking them over. They're removed. Sometimes the panels are then reusable and sold to other parts of the world that can still find use in them. So it's not just a function of driving a bulldozer in there and just knocking everything over. So they're not all the same.
But if you don't have enough money at the end of the day, if you don't have enough money put away in 30 years, that guy can walk away. Just say, here, take my bond and walk away. And you know as well as I do that we've had trouble with developers walking away, not doing the top coat in this pavement. You and I actually were up to Legislative Hall discussing with Representative Shoup and passing that bill to make builders put up more money in the front end. So this is kind of the same thing. In 35 years ago, how can you sit here and say what the price to demo that field is 35 years from now? And I think the fairest way is to have a third party, somebody that has no skin in the game. And I don't know that we have experts in planning that can sit there and forecast that kind of price. I could be wrong, but I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we might just agree to disagree. I don't, yes, I supported that bill. that you're referencing. I think I supported the bill, so no issue there. But I think, I've not had one client of mine in 25 years walk away from a subdivision that we've been involved in. I don't know that I see the relevance of that to this. I will just let you know that we put these estimates together based on our engineering estimates, based on ethical practices of what we think is accurate so that it's correct, and it's reviewed by the county to ensure its correctness, and it's updated every 5 years to adjust the market. The bill that you're talking about with the roads, that never happened. There was no every 5-year update. This already has a stronger position than the road bill that you're referring to because it's updated every 5 years.
Yeah, I was just making a comparison to that, how contractors on that end was walking away, why these guys could walk away too at the end if they didn't have enough bonded. Just that was the only comparison I was making.
Understood.
I'm done.
And as Sarah said earlier, this is reviewed every 5 years, so in 5 years' time, if things change, it'll be adjusted.
Correct.
Should be anyhow. And
Correct.
until we modify the county ordinances, tonight it is what it is, so. Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Ryman? Seeing none. Anyone else in the audience in favor of this, please come forward, be sworn or affirmed.
My name is Bill Andrew. Live at 6 Mitchellmore Court, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. Longtime Kent County resident.
Mr. Andrew, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you.
It's nice to be back in front of you all. I want to thank you all. For those of you who don't know me, I have spent 44 years of my professional life keeping lights on in Kent and Sussex County, Delaware, the majority of that time. My last 23 years was with Delaware Electric Cooperative, where I was the person responsible to make sure that we had not only sustainable power, but also affordable power. One of the last things that I did before I retired, which has been 3 years ago, is I recommended to our board of directors that they maximize the amount of solar that they have on their distribution system. Okay, and the way the cooperative works, it's basically community solar where it gets shared among everybody that is a cooperative customer. This is a Delmarva Power facility that's hooked up there. It is community solar. It is hooked up to the distribution system, so it does not go through the transmission system. And it is approximately 10% lower than the average cost. That's a basis that's set forth in the law. So it's affordable, it's sustainable, and I feel that one of the main concerns that I have, having been in the business so long, is to try to make sure that we do have power to keep the lights on. And it's not a single application that's going to allow us to do this, but it's a combination of many things. As you all know, Beat to Peak was developed by me, where we save power. We save power by using all kinds of generation and transmission to bring it in here. But a lot of our generation that we have today is not running. It's been retired at Indian River Power Plant. We have a 400 megawatt unit there that's on reliability must run. That's costing us millions. And I'm saying 2 years ago it was $72 million a year just to have it available to us to run during peak periods of time. I want to thank you for your consideration of these projects because I think it shows a lot of insight that we're looking into the future to make sure that we do have enough power to keep the lights on.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any questions, Mr. Andrew? Thank you, sir, and thank you for coming up.
It's good seeing everybody.
Appreciate it.
I would actually like to offer a condition if you would allow me.
Sure, right, entertain.
To satisfy Mr. Hurt's concerns. If this is a conditional use, and it would certainly be within your purview to add a condition that we would utilize a third-party review for the estimating, which appears to be a code that's in process, we would not object to that condition if you wanted to add it.
Okay, I'd like to add that, then. Add it, that we get a third-party review on that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Welcome.
When you make your motion, you can add that to your motion.
All right, I add that on the motion.
Okay, anyone else in the audience in favor of this project? Anyone else in the audience in favor of this project? Mark, anyone online?
If there's anyone joining us online that would like to speak in favor of this project, please indicate by raising your electronic hand or pressing *3. I see no hands raised, Mr. President.
Okay, at this time, we'd like anyone who might be opposed to this project to please come forward and offer testimony. Mark, anyone online opposed?
Similarly, if you're online and would like to speak in opposition to this project, please indicate by pressing *3 or raising your electronic hand. Still no hands raised, Mr. President.
Thank you. Commissioner Sweeney, you have a question?
Thanks. Mr. Ryman? Do you care to share with us what the other solar organization's objection was?
In the document, which should be part of your packet, they just referenced that when they were going through with their solar project, that there were objections from neighbors, and so they thought no more solar was a good idea. Any more solar was good. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing.
So they wanted somebody to object. They didn't care who. It had to be them.
I guess.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, any commissioners have any questions before I close the public hearing? We have 2 commissioners absent from the dais, but with that being said, Commissioner Hertz, I'll turn it over to you to make a motion.
All right, I move that Levy Court grant conditional approval of application C-2405. This is based on Exhibit A, RPC recommendation report dated September 24th, 2024, and Exhibit B, public hearing testimony dated September 5th, 2024, and public hearing testimony given tonight. Additionally, I'd like to add a condition, additional condition that a third party be contracted to give a price on remediation.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Hertz, second by Commissioner Maston to approve. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel, absent. Mr. Hall?
Yes, per staff and RPC recommendations as amended.
Mr. Hertz?
Yes, per RPC and staff recommendations and as amended.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Scott? Absent. Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, for all reasons stated.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes, for all reasons stated.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 5 yeas and 2 absent.
Thank you. Roll call reveals application C-24-05 has been approved by Levy Court. We'll move on to petition to amend comprehensive plan map and zoning map. Commissioner Maston is ordinance LC 24-25.
Mrs. Kiefer?
Thank you. Ordinance LC 24-25 is an ordinance to amend the zoning map and comprehensive plan maps. The site is just under 2 acres on the east side of South DuPont Highway, south of Spring Meadow Drive, north of Cheswold. It's currently zoned BN, neighborhood business, and the proposal is to rezone to BG, general business, and highway commercial in the comprehensive plan. The Planning Commission took testimony at their September 5th hearing, and at their September 12th business meeting, they voted unanimously to recommend approval, citing that the proposed classification is generally in keeping with the surrounding area. Infrastructure exists or is planned to serve future development, and the site is designated as a commercial area in the comprehensive plan's land use strategy map. So it does comply with the comprehensive plan. So again, this comes with a recommendation for approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any questions for Ms. Kiefer? Okay, seeing no questions for staff. At this time, I open the public hearing on ordinance LC 24-25 and ask anyone who's in the audience that would like to come forward and offer testimony in favor, to please come forward. And please give us your name, address, and be sworn or affirmed by the attorney.
Good evening, Commissioners. Elio Batista Jr., Parkowski, Gherkin, Swayze, Dover, Delaware, here on behalf of NAA LLC, the applicant. As set forth in the application, my client is seeking to rezone the area from neighborhood business to business general. It's currently a vacant area. The purpose for the rezoning is the BG designation just offers some more flexibility to be able to use the land to meet current market demands and conditions. With respect to the elements required with respect to rezoning, simply put, I wholeheartedly accept and incorporate the staff's recommendation. I think they very thoroughly and articulately set forth all the requirements and the justifications for that, and were addressed before the Planning Commission. If the commissioners have any questions, feel free to answer.
Any questions? Any questions from the commissioners? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else in favor of this project? Anyone else in favor of this project, please come forward and offer testimony. Seeing none, Mark, do we have anyone online?
For those joining us online, if you would like to speak in favor of LC 24-25, please indicate by raising an electronic hand at this time. I see no hands raised, Mr. President.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask anyone who may be in the audience, who may be opposed to this ordinance, to please come forward. Anyone opposed, please come forward. Give us your name, address, and be sworn or affirmed, please.
Rich Wieland, 123 Wheatsheaf Lane, Smyrna.
Sir, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
This land borders on Spring Meadow, which is a premier adult community with about 400 residents. You can see from the exhibits how close the homes are to this land. The way the land is zoned can have a major impact on our quality of life and safety. That's why the land has been zoned neighborhood business for many years and not highway business, or BG. The proposed zoning change would allow noisier and more dangerous business operations in close proximity to our homes. They would significantly detract from our neighborhood livability. The very small area for a buffer is inadequate. Our houses would not, the buffer would not shield our houses from the businesses there. That's why homeowners oppose the zoning change. The planning department's table of permitted uses in this proposed change of zone include storage of bulk agricultural chemicals, outdoor storage and maintenance of contracting equipment, industrial outdoor storage, heavy commercial retail and service, motor vehicle sales, service, storage and repair, and gas stations. We could have things like bulldozers, industrial machinery and equipment, a used car lot, or tanks of hazardous chemicals within a few feet of our homes. No one should have these things in their backyard. If you change the zone anyway, we ask that an approval include two reasonable common sense conditions. One, only a warehouse could be built on the property with no hazardous or flammable materials. And two, there would be an 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. ban on loading and unloading trucks and operating heavy equipment. Please protect our quality of life and safety. The 400 residents of Spring Meadow will thank you, and I thank you for your consideration tonight.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Whalen? Mr. Maston?
Mr. Whalen, could you come back up to the mic, please? Just one question. You had mentioned two conditions: warehouse to handle no flammable product, and also you mentioned 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That would be the only time that you would want any loading or unloading. Is that correct?
Yes, because of the noise factor.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions from other commissioners? Any other questions? See none. Thank you, sir. Anyone else in our audience who may be opposed to this ordinance, please come forward. Anyone else who may be opposed, please come forward. Please give us your name, address, and be sworn or affirmed, please.
My name's Rebecca Dale, and I live at 144 Sorrel Circle, which is very easily seen right next to the yellow square there.
Excuse me, is that Smyrna, Delaware?
Yes, sir.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Proceed.
Okay, I am very concerned about this because my home sits less than 100 yards, pretty much. I parked on the space and walked the lot. There is a wetland, which I'm not sure, I question how we can even have this zoning because of the wetland that's right there. That wetland comes right up into my lot, basically. There's a green space. Anyway, there's a green space there, and then there's no land. I mean, it's very sparse because a lot of the trees in that wet space are halfway dead. So there would be very limited screening, and the buffer is not enough, as Rich mentioned. The smells and the toxic fumes, if there was a lot of diesel going, is a concern. I'm also concerned about the traffic, and everyone in the neighborhood's concerned about how the traffic comes around that corner from the Econo Lodge or the hotel there, and they slam on their brakes. So if there were large pieces of equipment pulling out, or other vehicles for that matter, they're at risk of traffic coming around the corner. There has not been any mitigating equipment to slow that traffic down there. They set a piece of equipment at one point that just showed the speed limit, and it was set so close to the stoplight that by the time they registered on that speedometer, or whatever that thing was called, it showed reasonable traffic, time or mile per hour. So I think that's one thing. But you can see right where my house is, right next to that lot. It's in the top. It's right there, and there's very little space. So I'm concerned, and I apologize for not being at the earlier hearing, but I'm here today. I didn't think I'd have a chance to speak, so I apologize for my lack of cohesion with my comments, but I am very concerned about this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Dale. Any commissioners have any questions for Ms. Dale? Any commissioners? I don't see any. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Anyone else in the audience that is opposed to this ordinance, please come forward. Anyone else opposed? Anyone online, Mark?
If there's anyone joining us online that would like to speak in opposition to LC 24-25, please indicate by raising your electronic hand or pressing *3 on your phone. I see no hands raised, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any further questions? Commissioner Sweeney.
Thank you, Ms. Kiefer. Using the county mapping system, there is wetlands on that map all along that yellow line that's on the right side of the map. It's we can't build in wetlands. Right?
Not without the appropriate permits.
Right. So, and given that the location, those permits probably aren't going to happen, even though they could apply for them.
There's a good chance they wouldn't be cost effective.
Right.
To go through the process, yes.
And even, we don't know what they would plan to do there, but if they did bring something back, we could ask for buffers and all that.
Buffers would be required to some extent, and we could certainly ask for more, depending on the use.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, seeing no further questions and no further testimony, close the public hearing. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Mast to make a motion, please.
I would remind the commissioners that the issue is zoning, not planning. Thank you.
I move that Levy Court grant approval of ordinance LC 24-25, amending the zoning map from BN, neighborhood business, to neighborhood commercial, to BG, general business, highway commercial, located inside the growth zone overlay district. This is based on Exhibit A-RPC recommendation report dated September 24th, 2024. Exhibit B, public hearing testimony dated September 5th, 2024. The public hearing testimony given tonight and the findings of the fact that A, the proposed classification is generally in keeping with the surrounding area. B, infrastructure exists or is planned to serve future development of the site. C, the subject site is designated as a commercial area on the land use strategy map 7-C of the 2018 comprehensive plan.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Maston, second by Commissioner Scott to approve ordinance LC 24-25. Any commissioners have any questions about the motion? I don't see any. At this time, Mr. Naka, can we have roll call, please, on the motion?
Mr. Angel?
Unfortunately, since I missed this, I will not be voting for it.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, based on RPC and staff recommendations.
Mr. Hertz?
Yes, reasons stated.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Scott?
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, all reasons stated.
Mr. Pepper?
I'm going to vote no on this one. I'm not really convinced that moving it from neighborhood business to general business, I'm not really convinced that that's appropriate for there. I mean, at one time, yes, that could have worked, but not with all the housing behind it, and I am familiar with the character of the road in front of that, so I think I'm going to vote no this evening.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 5 yeas, 1 nay, 1 not voting.
Thank you. Roll call reveals ordinance LC 24-25 has been approved by Levy Court. Next item on the agenda is ordinance LC 24-24 parking, and I see Ms. Kiefer is already at the podium to give us direction here.
Thank you. Ordinance LC 24-24 parking. Most notably, what this ordinance does, it actually moves it out of the zoning ordinance, makes it an independent ordinance within the code. It eliminates altogether minimum parking requirements. And I know we've discussed in the past, those numbers in the current zoning ordinance aren't based in science. At best, they are guesses. What this ordinance does is give developers, property owners, the opportunity to demonstrate the parking that they actually need for their site. Certainly large commercial operations already have those formulas for their site development. And what we've noticed over the years is that it's actually the small mom and pop shops who get hit hard by our existing minimums, and they can't comply with them, and it makes it difficult for them to grow. So this adds a lot of flexibility into land development. It also eliminates the requirement for interior planted islands. It still requires the landscaping. But the island configuration, which is very often varied by the Board of Adjustment because it doesn't work in a lot of site development, this eliminates that. So it offers a lot of flexibility for designers while still maintaining certainly a rationale for how much parking is offered, and it maintains the buffering and the landscaping, just in a different configuration. The Planning Commission did discuss this at their September 5th hearing and at their September 12th business meeting, voted unanimously to recommend adoption of the ordinance. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions, Mr. Kiefer? Any questions? No, thank you. And as before, this is a public hearing, so I'll ask anyone in the audience that is in favor of this ordinance to please come forward and offer testimony in favor.
Mike Ryman, Becker Morgan. I think I'm already sworn in. So
You've been sworn.
So I'm here really on behalf of myself to support this parking ordinance, ecstatically support this parking ordinance. You know, I've been designing projects in Kent County for 25 years or so, and I think this is something that we've needed to accomplish for a long time, and I'm glad to see that it's happening. You know, just to point out some of the benefits of this and where we've seen some of the impacts, really the inefficiency in design on some of the islands and the placing of these islands, and with these really for no rhyme or reason to say, well, we have to have an island every 10 spots. And when you're laying out a site and trying to make it work for a user, it creates a lot of inefficiencies in drainage, grading, you know, extra catch basins and costs that ends up being wrapped into that project. And I think what this ordinance does effectively is, you know, it allows a more efficient design of parking while not diminishing the green space that we do want to have in the parking. So it's just not predetermining the design. It's letting us as engineers design these things to fit more appropriately. Snow removal, that was something that was mentioned at Planning Commission. If you see these parking lots with all of these curbed islands all over the place, you know, when you go into snow removal, you know, well, we haven't had a lot of snow, I guess, fortunately, depending on your perspective, but that becomes quite problematic. Other areas that we've seen some impacts, warehousing, logistics, distribution type projects, you know, we end up having these islands along these buildings, and they're not designed that way. They don't function that way. So we end up in front of the Board of Adjustment requesting variances and those kinds of things, which drags out time and the process for those types of uses as well. So I think this is a good move. It's the right way to handle it. In addition to, I'll call it the parking and the curbing and the islands and the layout, the idea of requiring applicants to demonstrate the parking need is a better approach. It's something that we're seeing around the country, where we are seeing a lot of municipalities, counties take that approach. You know, the alternative is you end up with sites that are simply overparked. One example is your own project, the EMS facility in Frederica. We have more parking on that than we need because the code says we have to have it. But in reality, the actual use that we have there, we know exactly what we need. They know exactly how many people are going to work out of that facility, exactly how many parking spaces they need, but we're over parking it because the code says we have to have that much parking. So this is a much more effective approach, which I think will result in better design, more efficient design parking configurations, and fully support it.
Thank you. Any questions? Any questions? All right, thank you. I just have one for Mr. Ryman. So when you're designing these parking lots, this should make your fees cheaper because it'll be a lot easier for your engineers to draw those lines on that blacktop?
No comment, no. Sure, yeah, most likely. Don't tell anybody.
Thank you, we'll hold you to that.
What's that? Yeah. See ya.
Anyone else in the audience? Anyone else in the audience in favor of this ordinance? Please come forward. Anyone else in the audience? Anyone on phone there, Mark?
If there's anyone joining us online that would like to speak in favor of LC 2424, please indicate by raising an electronic hand or pressing *3 on your phone. No hands raised, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any further questions by any of the commissioners on references ordinance LC 24-24 parking? Seeing none, turn the ordinance over to Commissioner Maston for motion.
I move to adopt ordinance LC 24-24, parking, including the adoption of Amendment 1, clarifying variance applications before the Board of Adjustment. The elimination of parking minimums and flexibility of design standards will be beneficial to new and existing businesses.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Masson. There was a tie between Commissioner Scott and Commissioner Sweeney for a second. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes, reason stated by Commissioner Maston.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Hertz?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, reason stated. Ms. Kiefer, please share with your staff. We appreciate their flexibility in continuing to look at ordinances that we can approve.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals ordinance LC 24-24, parking has been approved by Levy Court. This is the close of public hearings for this evening. There's no old business. Moving on to new business. Mrs. Masson, you have a potential action item from a workshop, housing rehabilitation project change order greater or equal to 25% of base contract.
I move the Levy Court approve the aforementioned housing rehabilitation change order number 21-35.
Second the motion.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Masson, second by Commissioner Angel to approve. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Hertz?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals motion passed. Item number 2 is the FFA request for a contribution as given to us in the workshop prior to this meeting. Mr. Masson.
I move to donate $1,500 to the Pfeiffer Middle School FFA chapter for their national convention in Indianapolis in October 2024.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Masson to approve, second by Commissioner Sweeney. Any questions on the motion? Mr. Hall.
Mr. President, I think in the past we had to cite where we were going to draw the funds from.
Susan, where would that come from? Okay. So include that part of your motion, take it from the miscellaneous line, Levy Court Commissioners?
The $1,500 will be taken from the county miscellaneous.
Still
Fine.
second.
All right, great, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Hertz?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals motion passed by Levy Court. Moving on to continue new business. Commissioner Scott, you have a couple introductions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Introduction of Resolution 4070, resolution establishing Patriots Crest Garbage Collection District 193 for public hearing on Tuesday, October 8, 2024 at 7 p.m. Introduction of Resolution 4071, a resolution established for Patriots Crest Streetlight District number 193 for public hearing on Tuesday, October 8, 2024 at 7 p.m. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Commissioner Hertz, you also have a couple introductions.
Yeah, my first introduction is Resolution 4072, resolution establishing Pondview Estates Streetlight District number 192 for public hearing on Tuesday, October 8, 2024 at 7 p.m. Introduction number 2 is of Resolution 4073, a resolution establishing Pondview Estates Garbage Collection District number 192 for public hearing on Tuesday, October 8, 2024 at 7 p.m.
Thank you for those introductions. Under other business, Commissioner Angel, item number 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to go into executive session immediately following the business meeting for preliminary discussion on site acquisition for a publicly funded capital improvement, legal strategy session regarding collective bargaining or pending or potential litigation, and personal matters pursuant to 29 Del Code 10004, B2, 4, and 9.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Sweeney. And any information items this evening? Any public comments this evening? All right, then we'll go back up to item number 2. I left it off my Commissioner Angel. We need you to do item number 2 also, please, for next week.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to go into executive session immediately following the workshop or committee meetings on October 1st, 2024 for preliminary discussion on site acquisition for publicly funded capital improvement, legal strategy session regarding collective bargaining or pending or potential litigation, and personal matters pursuant to 29 Del Code 10004, B2, 4, and 9.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Sweeney. Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Hertz?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals the motion passed. Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney, for bringing that to my attention. We were down to commissioner comments. Any commissioner comments? Commissioner Maston.
If you're looking for something to do this Saturday, Clayton is celebrating their Railroad Days, which is their annual tradition.
What time does that start?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. I would imagine be in the vicinity of the railroad tracks.
I would imagine you're right.
Any other commissioner comments? Okay. This time, we will go into executive session for the purpose of the motion number 1. Then we will need in the session all 7 commissioners, and Mark will need your help also. And everybody else that's on the dais, if you would wait, we'll be back shortly. And it is now 8:17. Okay, we are back in session. The Levy Court, after having a, it is now 8:46, after having a executive session involving the commissioners and county attorney. And Commissioner Angel has a motion to make.
Thank you, Mr. President. September 24th, 2024, a motion to be offered after executive session. A move to terminate the employment of Kent County Administrator Kenneth C. Decker effective as November 24, 2024, and to place him on immediate administrative leave through the conclusion of his employment. And I further move that Director of Public Safety, Chief Kevin R. Sipple, be placed in a position of acting county administrator until the position of county administrator is filled by Kent County Levy Court.
Second.
Any questions from the commissioners? If not, Laura, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Hertz?
No.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 nay.
Thank you. Roll call reveals that the motion passed by Levy Court. Need a motion for adjournment this evening?
Point of procedure. Under state law, I'm afforded the right to a public hearing if there's a resolution of removal, and I believe the law requires a resolution of removal, but I'd like to formally put on the record that I'm requesting that public hearing.
Thank you, sir. Our attorney will be in contact with you in reference to that.
Second the motion.
Second motion to adjourn? Okay, we have the motion to adjourn. Who was it? Commissioner Angel made that motion? And second by Commissioner Sweeney. All in favor, aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We are adjourned.